Genesee County Compassion Club show. Back in the studios here at All Points TV. I'm your host, Jeremy. Also special guest today with me in the studios, Gunnels. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be back.
We got John back in the studios here making it happen, All Points TV.
It's really a beautiful day out there, guys, too. I mean, the rest of the people are out, in case they're not out and about, they should get outside and look.
I agree, John. It is gorgeous out. My phone overheated on the way here. It's a good sign, I think. It's a good sign. I'm not upset about it at all, as you can tell. All right, we got some stuff we want to talk about. Talk about medical marijuana. We're going to talk about what's going down at the G3C. Get you up to date on politics. Let's get it going on. All right, we got first event that we just had recently at the club was our soup kitchen. We switched our days from Fridays to Tuesdays, and from what I hear from Mr. Matt, it was a smashing success. I think he had 115 people get served. They had meatloaf. Speaking of Will Ferrell, we were just talking about Will Ferrell before the show came on. Exactly. So Chaz served up some meatloaf, and that was freaking awesome. So we switched to doing lunch instead of dinner. And it makes it better for a lot of our vendors and our members to be able to get out there. And then, obviously there's still a need for it. So 115 people. So thank you very much for everyone that came out and helped support. Definitely appreciate it. We'll be doing it again next month. So help us out if you can at the North End Soup Kitchen. Other events going on. We got our softball team kicking booty. Doing good so far. I think the record this year is 3-0. So that's groovy. Another game tonight. So go softball. I know we got Golf League coming up here, so to all our golfers, good luck out there. And I know our golf tournament, our G3C golf tournament, we've been talking about it already. Of course, that's not going to be going on until like August, but I know some people are pretty anxious, so
very cool.
That'll be happening. Also coming up here, obviously, will be our 710 party. You're going to be looking forward to that. And we're trying to put together a couple other special events. If you've got some ideas, guys, down at the club, or any type of thing you might like to see for future events, throw a little note in the suggestion box. Let us know what you're thinking, and maybe we can put it in action. We'd love to. All right, I got a hankering for some barbecue. That's all I got to say. All right.
Old backyard fun.
Yeah. All right, let's get on with some medical marijuana. We've had some things happen here in the past couple weeks we want to catch you up to base on. One of those was a CBD announcement. Eric and I were talking about this just before the show. It was a little CBD bulletin issued from the Michigan State LARA department. And not to cut the conversation short, but in summary, really we kind of felt like at the end of the day, nothing changed. I mean, especially for us that are medical marijuana card holders, CBD's been something that we can use, and it is still something that you can use. So in spite of all the hoopla news and stories that were passed on in the last couple weeks about the CBD bulletin, it's irrelevant to people that are medical marijuana card holders.
That's true.
Now, getting on to the crux of the conversation, basically what it was is LARA had issued a department concerning different establishments around the state that were selling CBD products to the public. No restriction at all. You could buy it at a gas station in some cases. I know some people are purchasing it over the internet. Again, this is not talking about medical marijuana patients. We're talking about people that are not medical marijuana card holders.
Right.
And of course, I think a lot of people felt justified in doing this, being that you don't get high from CBD. If it's a CBD only product, and there is no other cannabinoid in it, there's no high associated with it. So it'd be kind of like, it'd be even less than a non-alcoholic beer, because a non-alcoholic beer still has alcohol in it.
Exactly.
But even that being said, at any rate, the department did issue their bulletin to reiterate what is already law, and basically CBD products are for medical use only. Okay? That's really the base of it. And I know that this has been something that's been going on around the country. We've talked about it here on the podcast a couple different times. CBD is part of the Schedule 1. It's a federally illegal substance. It is sort of in one of those gray areas, again, because it's a benign thing, but it is a part of the cannabis plant, and marijuana in itself is a Schedule 1 substance. So I thought it was interesting, though, that after LARA had issued their bulletin, Bayer Pharmaceutical issued their own bulletin and said, well, you might want to recant some of the language. It could be conflicting. And that's simply because Bayer Pharmaceutical is basically going to be rolling out their product here real soon. It's on a fast track right now for FDA approval process. And what I'm talking about, of course, is Epidiolex, which is a CBD-based medicine. Similar to like Marinol, where you had THC only.
Right.
This is going to be the other end of the spectrum, CBD only. And I know that they're also working on a product that is more full spectrum. It would actually have like a mix of THC and CBD as well. Of course, we're talking about pharmaceuticals here. This is not something that a caregiver or anybody else in the regular medical marijuana field is going to be having access to. This is something that would be FDA approved through your local pharmacy. You get it at Rite Aid in a pill, that type of deal. So it's coming. It's not here yet, and Bayer was basically protecting their legal status.
Sure,
so
their patent status.
yeah. And as you know, we do what they tell us.
Yeah. Well, you know, like
Larry immediately recanted. They sent out a new bulletin with new language and made it okay.
I would assume that that's all going to change though come this November if the citizens of Michigan vote for legalization on the ballot.
Well, I don't think it will actually, and here's the reason why: is because Bayer Pharmaceutical is marketing a pharmaceutical product.
That's true.
That is going to be prescribed and will be given out, through, like I said, Rite Aid, FDA. It's not going to go through the normal channels. It's not going to be a product that's going to be in the gamut of the medical marijuana program.
Right.
So I do kind of think that it is sort of in its own category, and I think it's something that we do need to pay attention to. And the reason is because there's plenty of folks out there that would say, well, if that's available, then you don't need your medical marijuana, not realizing that there's a difference in the product, certainly a difference in the applications and in the use of the product itself. Just because it comes from the same plant, it doesn't make it the same. And also in the sense that Epidiolex products or Marinol are very singular in their use. Mm-hmm. So Marinol is not something that you see widely prescribed like you do see marijuana being widely recommended.
Right.
So
no, if the legalization ballot initiative in November, if that was to pass, it has language in there for the hemp. For industry.
That's true for industrial hemp.
Right.
Yes.
So the question, I guess, is will this open up the doors for this market to exist outside the medical marijuana program once that happens?
That's a good question. And I don't have the answer to that right offhand.
I don't have the answer. Question. I don't have the answer either, because now, what if the Michigan State changes it marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 2 or something like that? Then we've got a whole nother area, a category where they will describe this plant and all of its byproducts as a medical, still categorizing it as medical, but they won't let it allow it to be in a free and open market like it is now, or like it was prior to Lara putting out this bulletin.
True. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because obviously in the legalization ballot, you have language in there for personal use and personal production, personal consumption.
Right.
But there's also language in there that's going to allude to a commercial structured system.
Yeah,
and what those products are, we don't know yet. This is way too far in the game to sort of pick and choose what products may or may not be available at the marketplace. I'm sure if there's a demand for it, though, there's probably going to be a product eventually. Where it's retailed at, or who's producing it, that's a different story. We don't know yet.
And I think that's where this debate is going to eventually go to politically, and there's going to be a political tiebreaker of some kind going to have to happen in the future, because you're going to have people wanting to sell and market products that are not necessarily, like we've talked about, psychedelically active.
Right.
So that's that being.
But still said, from the cannabis plant.
Still from the cannabis plant. So now, like you and I have talked about, as of right now, the way it is interpreted by the law is that it's an aspect of the cannabis plant, which makes it only obtainable by a person with a medical marijuana card at the moment.
Right. And you're bringing up some other questions I think that we don't even have answers to yet. One of the things that you mentioned with industrial hemp, typically industrial hemp isn't produced for its cannabinoid content. Industrial hemp doesn't have a strong resin development in the plant. It's just not something that you're going to typically harvest for that purpose. It's going to be used for other things. And there's already a market for industrial hemp. You can go to your local health food store and pick up a number of different hemp products that are currently being imported.
Right, imported is the key word.
We might be able to turn that around and now create some Michigan-based companies that would produce similar things. Maybe whether it be hemp flour or rope or clothing, whatever it may be.
Jeremy, I want to see this.
It may open that.
I want to see the cannabis seeds right next to the bacon bits at every salad bar and every restaurant.
Hemp seed.
The shelled ones.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I mean,
and I think, but I want to make the distinction that when you have an industrial industrial hemp product, it's not something that contains cannabinoids,
right, of course,
as like the marijuana cannabis plant. They are two different types of plants.
Exactly.
And a person is not going to be growing industrial hemp so that they can concentrate CBD products.
No.
There's two different types of things.
Right.
So, but it does bring up the question: is there cannabinoids that can be collected from? And there are. You know, what is available there? I don't know, and that would be something else that I think that we need more research on. You know, if you have industrial hemp out there, maybe it contains other cannabinoids in it, although they may be sparse,
right,
but they may be different than what were being used for medical purposes. Maybe they could be helpful.
Just a philosophical question for you. Do you think that we will see the day when the hemp seed is actually available in a little tub with a little spoon to sprinkle on your salad? Do you think that we're going to see that day eventually?
Oh, I would definitely think so.
I think
in
so
fact,
too.
I would almost venture to say it's probably
right around the
somewhere out there already.
Yeah.
Because you can go buy, like I said, at the health food store, you can go
right,
buy a bag of the roasted hemp seeds.
Yes.
They're actually pretty tasty. And they put, chipotle on it or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's got flavor.
But like at every salad bar, you got the
right, yeah, sesame seed
croutons,
croutons,
you got the sunflower seeds, you got the
and like a little more holistic type of place. Yeah, probably would. Next to the turkey bacon.
Exactly.
Turkey bacon bits.
Exactly. Right.
Exactly. So for those of you that don't like sesame seeds, maybe you'll have hemp seed. I think you will.
I heard the hemp seed actually is almost like total nutrition. That's why
it is. It's actually a whole.
It's a superfood.
A superfood. Thank
exactly.
you. And you could live on it.
Exactly.
It's got carbohydrates, protein, and all the healthy fats that your body needs. So, it's absolutely a wonderful thing. And I think that is a whole nother conversation and a whole nother industry, really, that is potentially opening up here in Michigan that yet we haven't even scratched the tip of the iceberg yet.
I agree.
So
I would agree.
And I know like a lot of investors and business-minded people, entrepreneurs are out there, really working hard right now on their medical marijuana facility license. Maybe there's other opportunities out there besides that, like industrial hemp farming and getting ready for that, because that's coming. And we don't know what it's going to look like. No, so that's going to be another interesting thing that we're going to have to watch the state carefully to see how they regulate this and not forget about it. Right. We passed a law here, I think it was just a couple of years ago actually, that allowed our local universities to do research and grow industrial hemp for research purposes. I don't know for a fact right now if that is even being utilized. I don't know if any universities are stepping out. They may be. I'm not saying they're not.
Right.
I'm just saying that it seems that industrial hemp often gets overlooked, and this is a part of the bill that is available to us. So it's something to consider.
And definitely the universities are being really quiet about the whole.
Yeah. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry in Canada. So, I mean, it's just over the river. They have John Deeres that you can drive and harvest hemp with, no joke. And so it's big business, and I think it's something that maybe some of our farmers in Michigan here would be interested in. I know a few farmers I've talked to already mentioned that they're interested. So just like anything, there's opportunity.
I think there is, and I think there's got to be a demand for the product publicly, and the public, I think, has to be more informed that the product actually exists and that this is how you use the product. This is how it. So I think it's going to take a little bit of a social change to kind of get people around to saying, oh, well, of course we would put the hemp seeds at a salad bar because that's the time and place that you're going to apply them and use them and eat them.
Or just, instead of having to go to the, Dale's or whatever, you could get it at Myers.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or it's more widely available. And I think it is becoming more widely available. I know you can buy hemp protein powder just about anywhere.
Right. It's true.
Doesn't taste very good, but it's good for you. All right. Well, that's kind of the recap on the hemp stuff. I did want to talk about that today. That's good. Obviously, the Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act is still going on. And, for the most of us out there that are patients and caregivers, I think it's at this point almost irrelevant. It seems to be big news everywhere. I know, just read a recent article in MLive right here in the Flint area that proposed development would somehow create 250 jobs in the Mount Morris area around the medical marijuana business. And I personally find that hard to fathom, but I also would say there's probably been well over 250 jobs created in the Mount Morris area because of medical marijuana already.
Oh, totally.
And I don't think that is even being conservative. I think it's probably well above that number. But I think a lot of these types of businesses out there sort of have big dreams, and I certainly wouldn't want to squash those by any means. But I think the reality of the situation is going to be different than what a lot of us think of. So it is a good thing. I think one of the best things that our state did do in passing this act was leaving the original act alone. And ultimately, if we look at this deadline that they've imposed on themselves of June 15th, ultimately in remembering that this program was for patients, right. I think that the sentiment from the state, Andrew Brisboe, the director, who said, I fully believe that patients will still have access to medical marijuana after June 15th. I think what he's alluding to is the fact that we have a robust patient and caregiver system here in Michigan, and it is still operational. It's 100% functional, and it's doing the job. It's getting the job done, and it will continue to get the job done regardless of what these facilities do or don't do. And I think it also sort of reiterates the relevance of the patient caregiver program when you look at what the state is doing with their licensing act. I mean, you have this deadline looming. Nothing's really been done. No one's been approved. They're a long ways away from ever being functional, to the point where a patient could get medicine. And it's a good thing that we still have the original program to utilize and to have patients make that choice.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Because access is the key. It really is.
Absolutely agree.
All right, let's talk about some other things. We got some politics going on. Obviously, I have Mr. Gunnels here in the studio with us. He is running for, what is the number again?
The 48th.
48th. I wanted to say 38th. That was close. We should know this because the 48th district is actually where the G3C resides, part of it. And he's got his card here. I know you guys have seen this floating around the G. And on the back of it has a picture or the map of the 48th district, which includes Montrose, Clio, Thetford, Forest, Genesee Township, Richfield, and Davison Township. So it's quite a large area in Genesee County. And as I stated, it obviously the G, our location for the club, is in the 48th district. So gentleman here is running for 48th district as a Democrat House representative. It's a pretty big deal. Definitely glad to have you back in the studios, Eric.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to seeing what you can do once you get in power.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I've learned this much in my 6 years as a trustee of Thetford Township. That remember, it's you're sitting there on a board of 7 members, or obviously I'll be going to a House of Representatives seats with a lot of members of House of Representatives.
How many are there?
I actually don't know. I actually don't know.
Is it like over 100?
I really don't care. As long as
I think it's over 100.
As long as they all listen to what I have to say, okay, and as long as we all say, look, it's time to put the whole marijuana debate to rest. Let's end criminal penalties and move forward. And I think that resonates well with everybody right now. And what I'm very excited to see is a lot of other elected officials taking the stage and the platform to represent this cause and the legalization of marijuana all the way around, just ending criminal penalties for adult use. I think that's the important thing. We don't need police officers spending our resources driving around looking for people growing plants. That just seems a complete waste of time of law enforcement. And as long as we drive that simple, clear, important message through to everybody and say, look, bad laws, it erodes public trust in law enforcement. And in my opinion, public trust in law enforcement is essential to a civilized society. And we've got to restore public relations with law enforcement by ending criminal penalties of marijuana. I think that's the main stump speech that I need to get across to everybody. And I think everybody can resonate with this, because when you look at the spending on it, we could be putting that money toward roads, we could be putting that money toward schools, we could be putting that money toward resource officers to protect our schools. There's a lot of things we could do with that money to better implement that and better direct those funds to go do something else productive for society instead of dragging us down.
By the way, I looked it up. There's 110 members of the House.
There you go.
110.
110.
Okay. I mean, it was just over.
I still don't care.
So.
I just want to
get them all on your side.
I just right, exactly.
I think there's going to be.
Doesn't matter how many people I get.
Thankfully, due to term limits here in Michigan, there's always a lot of fresh blood flowing through our legislature,
and that's what we need right now.
And that is you're right. That's exactly what we need.
And when I look across the board at how many candidates are running for office, from the governor's position to the attorney general position to all the other tier positions below, you realize there's a lot of candidates out there now that are no longer afraid to put marijuana and medical marijuana on their platform.
Yeah.
And I did that. If you guys remember, I did that in 2012. And everybody thought
before it was cool.
Before it was cool, and everybody. That's a good way of putting it. And everybody thought that it was political suicide to do that. And I knew better. I knew that the majority of the people in our community, in our daily lives, across the county and across the whole state of Michigan, they believe that the laws against marijuana are socially offensive and socially corrosive. And I think that's where the majority of everyone in the state is at. And I think that this fall, the voters are going to go to the voting polls and they're going to vote to legalize marijuana.
I think you're right. Speaking of that, there was quite a bit of hoopla around the legislature possibly taking up the ballot initiative prior to allowing it to go to the voters. The reason for doing this, obviously, would be to allow the legislature to more easily change the law in the future. So this is how it basically works. If the public passes it, it's written into the state's constitution, takes a 3/4 majority to change anything on that law in the future, similar to like our medical marijuana law now.
Right.
If the legislature decided to take up the issue and pass it themselves, then they would only need the majority, a regular majority, to change the law in the future. I still don't think this is going to happen, in spite of the stories that I've read.
I would agree with you.
The different reports.
Yep.
The House Speaker, Tom Leonard, he is running for State Attorney General, and I don't think that he wants to dabble in this at all. And I think that the best way for him to stay out of the kitchen is just stay out of it.
Right.
And I think that's what he intends to do. They're running out of time.
Right.
I think they probably only have about 20 days left. And,
okay. Well, they also can. I think they have 40-something days after it's passed to address it. Also.
Really?
I think so. I think even after it passes, I think the legislature has.
Well, then wouldn't they still need 3/4 majority though, because it passed?
They would, but they have a small period at which they can take it over and they can rework it before it's finally approved. So that's another reason that I want to get elected to this position.
Okay. Because
I want to make sure that I represent everybody's voice down there, and we make sure that we hey.
Right.
Let's no. This whatever the voters put forth should be liberally interpreted, as of courts have said in the past.
Yeah.
And that's the way our medical marijuana law should be treated. That's the way this law should be treated as well.
That 3/4 majority is incredibly important. It's probably one of the biggest things that's protected all of the different protections in our law, is the fact that it takes so much to get the legislature to be able to change anything in it. And that's why they created the MMFLA, is because they wanted to create something completely separate from the original law that they could change.
Right.
And they did. So you would see a similar scenario played out with our legislature when it comes to the recreational ballot proposal if the voters were to pass it themselves. Mm-hmm. So I think it's in our favor to let us pass it.
Yep.
And have the protection of that. But we'll have yet to see. And like I said, I don't think this is something that's going to be taken up at the legislative level.
I would agree with you, and I think that's because primarily we've got a dominant Republican House and Senate right now, and I just don't think that the party itself, the Republican Party, is really ready to take that issue on fully. I mean, you think that some business interests behind the scenes might push them, but I really don't think that as a party, with their party base that they rely on, I just don't think that they're ready to say, hey, let's legalize marijuana.
Yeah.
And I don't see, I mean, I've got to give credit to my one opponent, Sherry Cross, who's running against me as a Republican. I give her full credit because she's actually pro legalization of cannabis and pro medical marijuana too. So she's running as a Republican, but she's pro these things, and I give her a lot of credit for doing that. But I don't think the party's ready to support that, and I think that's why I'm running on the Democratic ticket, because I believe that the Democratic Party is ready to take on legalization and embrace it, especially after the Bernie Sanders campaign. That's what I'm running on. I'm running on a freedom first platform, protecting our constitutional rights, transparency in government, keeping our taxes low. These are very important issues to me. So I'm joined the Democratic Party years ago when I ran for trustee, and I like the party because I believe it's the party of the people, and I believe that I'm the right person to demonstrate where the party should go in the future, because I really think that the party has gotten off track, and I think we all saw that in the 2016 election with Bernie versus Hillary.
Sure.
And I think that the people voted against Hillary because she was establishment. She was an establishment candidate, and I think what we need today are progressive candidates that are ready to take on the system, truly reform policies that need to be reformed, and not just pass new laws for nuances, but go back and look at old laws and say, look, this program doesn't work anymore. Let's get rid of it. Look, we put money into this account, and what are we doing with it? Where is that money going for? Look at the lottery. The lottery was supposed to help the schools and all this, right? Well, all that money, where's all the money going? Okay,
right.
So now this new medical marijuana law will pass in the fall. Some of that money goes to roads and schools. I would like to represent the people, make sure that money goes to roads and schools, and put the microscope of transparency on it, and make them answer.
Time and time again, government seems to come up with these solutions for problems, and they tell you, well, you do this and we'll do this.
Sure.
And then we do this because we don't have a choice, and the other thing doesn't happen.
Right.
Or it happens half-assed. And that's what I think people are sick of. I think that, in the past, it seemed like the Republican Party seemed to represent a little bit more, at least a little bit more leaning to a libertarian platform.
Sure.
And now that's sort of flopped over, and it seems like the Democrats sort of are leaning more towards that way, certainly with the Bernie Sanders side of the things.
Right.
If you look at what Hillary Clinton represented, you're right. She's establishment character and really doesn't represent smaller government or personal rights or anything like this.
No.
Whereas Bernie does. Right. So I think the Democrats that lean more towards that libertarian type of, at least they're going to be more popular with our group. You know what I mean? Protecting personal rights, government getting out of the way, and spending less.
Yes, absolutely. And just while having
or at least spending in the right way.
Yes. And while we have an opportunity, I'd like to take this opportunity to kind of reach out to the voters of the listening audience. The kind of people that I think are really looking to vote for me are people that, number one, you look at the political system and you're disenfranchised from it because you think it's a joke or a circus. I'm with you. I've been there. I've looked at it for many years and thought, wow, something's got to change. This is just seems upside down and backwards all the way around. So the people out there that like independent candidates and want to vote independent candidates but don't know who to choose between when they a Republican candidate or a Democratic candidate, think of me. If you're an independent thinker and you're an independent type of voter, I want you to think of me when you go to the voting polls this August 7th, because I'm that way. I look at an individual and I evaluate them based on their individual personality and their opinions of things, their platform, the critical thinking that and the thought process that goes into how they're thinking about something. I think that's me all the way. The people who I know, many people. I worked on the Bernie Sanders campaign. I went door to door for Bernie Sanders in the Flint area. I went door to door in communities where every third home was burnt down, and I wasn't afraid to go to those communities. I wasn't afraid to knock on those doors, and I wanted people to know that Bernie Sanders, I felt strongly that he was the better choice out of the whole 2016 election. And so those people, I want those voters to know I'm your candidate. Other people I know voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary, but then when Bernie didn't get the nominee and Hillary did in the general election, the people that voted for Bernie Sanders, and I know many people like this, that voted for Bernie in the primary, but they ended up voting for Donald Trump in the general election. And that's simply because they just didn't like an establishment candidate like Hillary. So if you're that kind of voter, I'm your kind of candidate also. And for the Democrats that, depending on who where your political alliances are, I want the Democrats to know that I support the Democratic values in a big way. So there's a lot of things that I'm trying to do now that are trying to unite the party and not divide the party like we saw in 2016, because I really think that Hillary Clinton and the Hillary Clinton campaign really did an injustice to the American people by dividing the party on issues that they shouldn't have been divided on. And it's interesting to see. I supported Dana Nessel for the Attorney General position, still do. I'm with her all the way. I think Dana Nessel as an Attorney General pick is the right choice for Michigan. I think she's got very progressive ideas, and she's very liberal and understanding about cannabis and cannabis reform. So,
yeah, and you know, like the other gentleman I mentioned there, Tom Leonard, who is the current Speaker of the House, also running for Attorney General on the Republican side. Mm-hmm. And you're talking about establishment candidates.
Right.
He's an establishment candidate. The guy's been in the legislature for quite some time. He's a career politician. And I hope that we're getting sick of those people.
Yes.
You know, there's nothing wrong with entering a lifetime of servitude and service. And certainly, you know, with the Memorial Day coming up here, we don't want to forget about the most important people that have done that, and those are our soldiers.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that right there that's for real. You know what I mean? Those people gave their lives up for you to have freedom, and they didn't do it for money or fame or power. And it seems like a lot of our career politicians have their motives mixed up.
That's right.
And I know that Eric doesn't. He's not one of those guys. And we need more people like him to run for office, to be in office. So I hope you can support him.
Thank you.
But I know we're running short on time here, and I did want to say a little something about Memorial Weekend.
Sounds good.
You know, it's just one of those beautiful things that we have in our country is freedom, and freedom of choice, freedom to elect people that we know, people that we choose, freedom to have medical marijuana, freedom to have your family, freedom to educate yourself in the way you deem fit. That was paid for by soldiers.
Yes.
And you know, I know that I am not a supporter of war, never will be, and a lot of the wars that our country has been in have probably been frivolous, to say the least. But the soldiers who paid the price in those wars were not.
Right. They gave all.
They gave it all. That's right. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a minute or two to, you know, be thankful for your freedom. And if you have a family member that was in these services, a veteran, give thanks to them. Let them know you appreciate what they did, because in this world right now, it seems like all we ever do is complain. And it seems like, especially when it comes to talking about things like our country, you know, just people get all sort of stomach acidy, you know what I mean? And it just, you start thinking about all the things that are wrong and all the things that shouldn't be the way that they are. But you got to remember, this is still the best country in the world. It really is. And the life that we live here is far and away much better than what most people experience their entire life. They don't even have a clue about it.
That's true.
And so just be thankful. And if you have a chance, please thank a veteran this weekend for what they did for you, because they did it for you, not for corporate America, not for politicians.
That's right.
They did it for you. So thank you to our service members, definitely. Thank you, Eric, for coming in and sharing. Definitely appreciate it. And, you know, politicians get a lot of flack, but what they do is definitely commendable as well. You know, they take a lot of flack for not a lot of pay. Not all politicians are wealthy millionaires. Is that right?
That is true.
That's true. That's true. All right. John, thanks for being with me in the studio today. All Points TV is always getting it on. Please check out all the other podcasts if you can. Thanks for being with us here on the Genesee County Compassion Club show. And I hope you guys have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Thank you.